All right. Well, peace to you, sunshine, and welcome. This is going to be the next extension onto your reading. And so today we are going to be discussing the planets. And in this section particularly, we will be covering the sun, the moon, and Mercury. And if I have, an extension of time, then I'll also get into Venus, but typically within this section, the sun, the moon, and Venus. And then in the next section, we'll talk about the sun, the moon, and Mercury, I meant to say. And then in the next section, we'll talk about Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. All right, let's definitely get into this. So, first and foremost, right, you have your sun within the sign Cancer. And more specifically, your sun is within the third house, right? So these are all very interesting things and things worth taking into consideration. And to even take it a little bit further, your sun is within the decan of, if I'm not mistaken, it is the decan of research. And this is the decan that's a combination between the Cancer energy and the Pisces energy. And yeah, I'm very certain that this is the decan of research. And so this decan deals with the last 10 degrees of of Cancer, right? So you're born in the last days of the sign Cancer. So when I say research, this decan specifically deals with research into the unknown and the unseen, like the spiritual world. You feel me? There have been a plethora of different when it comes to, I hope that it's still recording. But anyways, hopes aside, when it comes to this deacon, like, and because what I'm reciting from or elaborating on is spiritual alchemy. Is what I'm saying. My bad. Spiritual astrology, which is like the branch of astrology that kind of gives you insight into the spiritual doctrines, like the stories, the myths, associated with the different signs. You know what I'm saying? From a perspective of uh, allegories and mythologies to help us better understand the universe and the world at large. Like I said earlier, this is a Cancer Pisces energy. You feel what I'm saying? And it's like, because of this Cancer Pisces energy, like Pisces is very much a sign that deals with the spiritual plane. It deals with the spiritual world. And interestingly, with you, it's like you technically have influences from all three of the water signs, right? Cancer and Scorpio primarily. But then, Pisces being only a deacon within your sun. So with these energies being present automatically, like there's already this profound gateway into the spiritual plane, I guess you can say. Like Cancer is ruled by the moon, right? And the moon, it deals with the mind. Now, here is where people complicate things, because people be like, Mercury deals with the mind. But it's like, when you really dive into astrology and you really, really understand it, and you pull your knowledge from accredited, and trustworthy sources, like ancient sources and etc., then you understand that it's like, because look, Mercury, right? The symbol of Mercury, a lot of people don't know that what look like horns on the symbol of Mercury is actually a crescent moon. And the thing about the crescent moon is the crescent moon, in a sense, highlights the soul's evolutionary nature, right? When it comes to a crescent moon, the moon can either be in its phase of waxing and getting bigger, or in its phase of waning and getting smaller. And that's like the same nature with the Mercury energy. It is a tool, and it can be utilized to advance the soul, or it can be utilized to like degrade the soul. You know what I'm saying? So it's very powerful. But that's what so I bring up the crescent moon on Mercury just to signify that, in a sense, Mercury is an aspect of the mind. Mercury deals with logic, reasoning, how you decode things, how you communicate your ideas, how you receive your ideas. Mercury is ultimately the planet of perception within astrology, you feel me? But the moon is the subconscious mind. So when we're talking about subconscious and conscious, subjective and objective minds, the subjective mind is more encompassing, it's more powerful. It is where memory is stored. It's more so where our identity is even stored. You feel what I'm saying? So that's the moon. Like, it kind of deals with how you react and respond. Like Mercury is like, you get some news and you process that information, but the way that you react and respond to that information, once you have processed it internally, once the thoughts have been registered, that's like your moon. You know what I'm saying? Your reaction and response. And like the moon, there's a lot about the moon. You feel me? There's a lot about the moon. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up, and that's primarily why, like, when it comes to the Pisces, the Pisces deacon of Cancer, that's why it's primarily the research deacon, because Cancer being connected to the moon is a mental inner plane sign. Cancer belongs to the first emanation as well. And Cancer belonging to the first emanation, what this means is that it follows more so the beat of its own drum. Like, it more is trusted and anchored within its own voice, within its own feelings, within its own emotions. You know what I'm saying? Now, Scorpio is more so modified. Like, whereas Cancers, they act greatly from their own emotions, their feelings, and their sensations, Scorpio, they're more inclined towards receiving like the advice of others and what other people think. But then Pisces, right, they're fully influenced by the outside world. You know feel what I'm saying? Like just fully swayed by the outside world. And that's like the different emanations, you feel me? Emanation meaning how the signs succeed each other, how they came into existence. Cancer being the first sign to come into existence, right? It is more inwardly focused. Being the moon, right? It's very about the mind, the internal realm, and things like that. So that's Cancer. But then Pisces being the spiritual plane at large. I'll leave it at this to conclude what I'm trying to explain with this decan of Cancer. Ultimately, it is of great value and significance, for you to tap into and gain as much knowledge and information about the spiritual plane and about spiritual laws and spirits and things like that. You feel what I'm saying? Because from the feedback you've been giving me, you let me know that in a sense you're already very much immersed within the spiritual plane. You already have a tremendous amount of experiences that were spiritual. You feel what I'm saying? Now, to get more into Cancer in the third house, right? Sun and Cancer in the third house, because it's already 14 minutes. So with you having your Cancer, with you having your Sun and Cancer in the third house, I mean, first and foremost, the Sun, right? It deals with the ego. It deals with what the individual identifies with the most. In a sense, the Sun is like a focal point. You feel what I'm saying? Like when it comes to the Sun and the suns of the universe, right? The stars, they in a sense are the focal point of life. You feel what I'm saying? Like the planets and everything around them typically receive their energy and vitality from the Sun. They're the center. You feel what I'm saying? And so even with our own Sun placement, it deals with which energies our life is centered primarily around, which energy we in a sense channel our will through, because the Sun is our willpower, right? And the will is like a desire that is perpetually propelled. You feel what I'm saying? Like desires can be fleeting, but when you hold on to a desire, and we can say you apply a little bit of discipline and fixatedness to that desire, and that becomes your willpower, and that's the Sun. It's your identity, your willpower, your ego, your self-significance, and ultimately where your power resides. Now, first and foremost, with you having your Sun in Cancer, Cancer being having a natural affinity towards the fourth house, this lets us know that one of the things that your life revolves around is like fourth house related things. So like the home, things like family, and just domestic affairs in general. You feel what I'm saying? And also because it's identity, right? We can understand that for you, your family and domestic energies and affairs have done lots to contribute to your identity and who you are today as a person. Like even the fact of like your father having been such a great influence on you in regards to your identity today and how you see yourself, that also signifies this energy of the Sun, how familial related things in a sense energize and impress one's ego, one's identification. And so the thing about the Sun is it's neither positive or a negative, neither a harmonious or a discordant planet, but it's rather convertible. It's neutral, and it can be good or it can be bad, right? And we'll get more into the state which your Sun expresses through when we talk about the aspects and we look at how the different planets and the different houses are influencing each other. You feel what I'm saying? So we'll get into that later when we get into it. But so far from what I read, I don't think I can't really say too much though, because I haven't looked at the aspects like that, because all I've been doing as of now was looking at the houses for you. Now we're talking about the planets. You feel what I'm saying? So we'll get into that later. But yeah, it's a convertible planet. You feel what I'm saying? So wherever power is concerned, wherever vitality is concerned, and energy is concerned, Cancer like permeates or is of relevance. You feel what I'm saying? So for you, your like energy and your power dwells within your emotions and your emotional ability to channel that. And I think you'll have your Mars in Cancer as well. Like if you have both Mars and you do have your Mars in Cancer. Like both the Sun and the Mars, because Mars primarily is raw energy. It's like passion, motivation, ambition, aggression. You feel what I'm saying? A lot of ends. But the Sun is just like vital. It's vital energy. You feel me? It's life force. But the Sun's energy is more, in a sense, majestic. It's like a queen energy, right? Feminine speaking term, right? It's more of like a queen type of energy, more assertive, a rather more masculine, more positive energy. And it's interesting because the sun is a masculine planet, but the sun is within a feminine sign, the sign Cancer. And Cancer is a cardinal sign as well. I think it's important for me to mention. With it being a cardinal sign, like the cardinal signs are all leaders, but when it comes to Cancer, especially being ruled by the moon also, it kind of leads from behind the scenes, you feel what I'm saying? It's like it's kind of an influential energy that operates in regards to its leadership and its influence more so from the subconscious mind rather than the conscious mind, you feel what I'm saying? So leading behind the scenes, like maybe your children, for example, your children being the like the catalyst for your later influence on life, like being such an amazing and wonderful mother and creating such beautiful human beings, and because of your impact on them, they going on later to continue your legacy and go out into the world and do amazing powerful things, you feel what I'm saying? Like that's very much Cancer. Like Cancer may lead rather indirectly rather than directly, and the water sign, right? So it's very much influenced by its emotion and by its sensations. Very Cancer can be rather timid, right? And when it timid, like mystical, dreamy, even, you feel what I'm saying, type energy like that. But also when it comes to, well, it's interesting because we were talking earlier previously. We were talking about how people have this tendency of projecting fantasies onto you, and we equated it to the Pisces energy. And I just today disclosed to you how you are within the decan of Pisces. You're Cancer, but within the decan of Pisces, which is the last decan. But yeah, it's a timid sign, very sensitive, very emotional, very receptive, very plastic as well. When I say plastic, I mean like um changeable and adaptable, because sensitivity, being sensitive and receptive, like just the planet, just the sun in general, I mean just Cancer and the moon in general are flexible signs, right? And the moon deals with fluctuation, changes. And when it comes to Cancer, the changes are of the water kind, so emotions. Its strength is in its tenacity, meaning it's very strong and resilient when it comes to its ability to endure all types of emotional stuff. But its weakness is in its touchiness. Cancer can be rather sometimes touchy. But like with you having your moon in Cancer, now this is a good, before I transition into the moon, this is not a good time for me to transition into the moon. But before I transition into the moon, because I was gonna bring up how your moon being in Scorpio kind of influences your Cancerian energy to be a little bit more Martian and a little bit more assertive and domineering, and not too revealing as to your emotions and your weaknesses. You feel me? Because Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and Mars is the planet of aggression, the planet of war, the planet of, well, yeah, it's the planet of war and aggression. And it's like Aries, the masculine expression of Mars, is like the Spartans, you feel what I'm saying? The ones who kind of just go into war without thinking, and they're just very aggressive and animal-like, you feel what I'm saying? Worry. But then Scorpio is more like behind the scenes, like it's more like the strategic plan of execution and action, you feel what I'm saying? So Scorpio more operates from an intellectual standpoint, even though it's an emotional sign. Like when Scorpio attains its highest exaltation, and it's the expression of the ego, it resonates to the frequency of, what's that planet called? Mercury. It resonates to the frequency of Mercury. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. But within the third house, with your sun being in the third house, this indicates first and foremost that there are a lot of powerful tendencies, like when it comes to the mind, like whatever house the sun is within, it expresses through vigorness. You feel what I'm saying? Vigorness, like the same word as vitality or a concentration of energy. And so the third house is the house of thoughts, the house of intelligence, how thoughts, learning, communication, transportation, one's neighborhood, one's immediate interactions, the people that are around you, but just your immediate environment in general. These are all third house related things. And so to keep it very generalized, and not to get too broad, essentially with the sign, with the third house, the reason why it's both associated with the immediate environment around you, but simultaneously your inner mind and the thoughts that are the closest to you, is because the thoughts you hold within your mind, in a sense, are projected outwardly to reflect your reality physically, especially your immediate reality. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, for example, even like physically going around and organizing things can help bring mental stability and security. But like doing it from a physical to a mental perspective is more so backwards. Like what you really want to do is manage your thoughts first, and then, because thoughts kind of act as the foundations for action. Once you have your thoughts set, right, and let's say your thoughts are set on this ideology of cleaning your environment around you, then you'll do it, because that's where your thoughts are going. But anyways, the third house is a house that deals with associationship. You know what I'm saying? It's the house of associates, and like I already mentioned, it primarily deals with the associates closest to you. But simultaneously, I'll also mention this for you. The third house, it also deals with, pardon me, I'm trying to think right now. That's, I already told you what it deals with. Like, I remember because we talked about the third house. It primarily, it's a house of associates, but it primarily deals with those associates that are closest to you in your environment, but it also deals with the thoughts you associate with. So in context of the third house, your thoughts are like forces or individual unique beings and entities that you are associating with and dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's what the third house is. It's also a very personal house. The third house is a personal house because it deals with your inner thoughts. And so what this all means is that you are a rather personal person, in the sense that you probably a lot of the times more so in your head, possibly assessing information and just thinking, and also possibly writing things out, because the third house does deal with writing and journaling as well. But in general, this is kind of an energy that it can express in communication and verbally speaking, but simultaneously it can also express as in having a overly stimulated mental environment, like continuously having all these different thoughts and these different ideas. And so what happens is it may even express as you talking, communicating, because the word is an extension of a thought, right? But yeah, so it's almost 30 minutes. I think now would be a perfect time for us to segue into the moon. So your moon is in Scorpio. It's in Scorpio within the 6th house. Now I just want to double check to make sure that I'm correct about this. And of course, I am correct about this. So with your moon being within All right, now that we're talking about your moon, I'm gonna talk a little bit about. Now that we're talking about your moon, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Cancer. You feel what I'm saying? Because you know the moon rules Cancer. So we're talking about the moon, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about your sun, and then we'll also get in a little bit more about like your third house, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Well, because your sun rules your third house, and your sun is because your sun rules your third house, and your sun is in the third house, all that energy I talked about as far as like emotions and, you know, your experiences with family having a great influence upon your identity, they also have a great influence upon your mental environment, like your third house energy. And so all the information I talked about with Cancer can be applied to gain a better awareness and understanding in general of the influences within your third house. Now, your sun is your moon is in Scorpio. So with your moon being in Scorpio, when it comes to resonance, right? Like everything having a resonance for other things, you feel me? Like the sun being in resonance with like the sign Leo, and so wherever Leo is, or whatever Leo things may be out there, the sun is like influencing that. The same goes with your planetary positions. So with your moon being in Scorpio, it means that because Scorpio is ruled by Mars, it means that Mars is influencing your moon, the energies of your moon, the energies of your mind, the energies of your domestic life, and your inner world in general. So very Martian. And then with the sun being in Cancer, it means that the moon is influencing Cancer because of the resonance. The moon is influencing your sun because of the resonance that they have together. And hold on. And we'll get more into this later. Like your moon and your sun are trining each other, which is most definitely a wonderful thing. It just highlights and signifies a harmony between the two of them. And we'll get into that when we talk about the aspects. So the moon is the it's not a planet, right? But in astrology we consider it a planet. The moon is the planet of one's inherent like emotional needs and desire, like emotional needs and wants, we will say. Needs more than wants. It deals with the comfort zone. It deals with like the inner child, you know what I'm saying? The moon deals with energies that have been developed where domestic affairs are concerned. Energies that have been developed where domestic affairs are concerned, meaning it deals with nurture, right? It deals with how it is that you were nurtured in your upbringing, your childhood. Like as a psychology, I'll call you a psychologist, right? As a psychologist, I'm pretty sure you're aware of the subconscious mind and its innate influence from the upbringing in the childhood, right? Primarily, there's this 7-year time frame where it's like, according to that time frame, a child, when they are conditioned in that time frame, like whatever experiences they go through within that time frame, they in a sense are going to be the result of those experiences, right? They're like a sponge absorbing all of that, and the childhood is the first initial development of the mind. And that's very much what the moon signifies. It signifies like what experiences you went through and why you are the way that you are today, but from the perspective of why it is that you react and respond to certain things the way that you do. If you went through, horrible things in your upbringing, then like as Scorpio would indicate, and this would be an indication that for you, when it comes to your reactions and responses, you may kind of have somewhat of this skepticism type of energy, and like, because Scorpio is a water sign, and the moon, and Cancer is a water sign as well, and the moon is very psychic. Like, your skepticisms and things like that are beyond just paranoia, even though like paranoia can be an extension of those traumatic experiences from the childhood. But ultimately, like, Scorpio is like a walking lie detector. It just reads vibes in general. You feel what I'm saying? And it has this innate ability to pick up one's innate true intentions and purposes, and be able to decipher like the root essence of why it is that someone is like going about doing something, taking an action, if that makes sense. So I say that just to bring up to highlight the reality that Scorpio is a energy that very much deals with interpreting vibrations. So it's a form of intelligence, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the ego, which is associated with Scorpio, is like the Scorpio state where it is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is the planet of intellect. So Scorpio ultimately is an intellectual planet, an intellectual sign, but it deals with emotional intelligence. It deals with the ability to dive and like go beyond the surface of things and kind of dig the truth and the innate awareness and understanding. But unfortunately, because Scorpio, being fixed water, because Scorpio is fixed water, right? When you think of fixed water, right? We can give 3 examples. The first one is ice, right? And Scorpio can be cold like ice. It can burn the way that ice burns. And people equate Scorpio with, an invisible flame. You know what I'm saying? Or ice, like cold ice can burn you. But beyond just negative energies of like the scorpion and its ability to sting, like Scorpio being a flame and like being a flame, also in being ruled by Mars, also equates to its ability to demonstrate great passion and great, like, I'll leave it at that, great passion and great motivation and inspiration into things, you know what I'm saying? But more so great passion and emotion, because Scorpio, right, getting back into the fixed waterness, being fixed water, it can have a tendency of becoming tunnel vision, you know what I'm saying? Becoming hyper focused emotionally on the things it wants to accomplish or acquire. And then with that, Taurus can become hyper focused, but upon a tangible, practical, or applicable like function or result, because Taurus being an earth sign, it's all about application and practicality. Scorpio being a water sign, it's all about emotion and sensation, feelings, passion, things like that. So the first fixation of water we've already talked about is ice, you know what I'm saying? And it's rather cold, and because it's cold, like it's very like it's the slowest motion, right? Ice is the slowest state that water can be in. So Scorpio in of itself can be a rather slow sign. And when I say slow, I mean like, because it goes so deep into certain emotions, for a Scorpio, like their experience, which may be 1 minute, may feel like 10 minutes. Like 1 minute even can feel like a whole hour, just because of how intense like they feel, you feel me, the emotions and the attention to detail. It's like Scorpio and Virgo, they're similar energies. They have very high similarities with each other. They're very close. They're both analytical. That's the primary similarity. You feel what I'm saying? And so because of their analytical nature, they can at times get into this like cynicism, like cynics, I hope I'm using that word right, being a cynic, where it's like they may go around observing and looking at like the negative, even looking at the negative, even when it may not be there. And I paused and it just hit me that you have your moon in the sixth house, which is the house of Virgo. You feel what I'm saying? So that analytical energy is much more amplified with the sixth house, your moon being in the sixth house. You feel what I'm saying? But anyways, yeah. Okay. So as I was saying though, with the moon in Scorpio, so that's one of the reasons why like time may slow down, because there's this intensification of emotions and feelings. You feel what I'm saying? Like a lot of Scorpio moons, they may find themselves going through intense phases of depression, intense emotions that can lead them to like suicidal thoughts and everything like that. And I know you kind of talked to me a little bit about that, and that's very much a Scorpio energy thing. And it kind of goes into the next fixation of water, which I am going to get into. So another perception and ideology of fixed water we can think of is like taking a water and putting it in a bowl, right? Like a lake. Yeah, to an extent like a lake. Like there is no current flowing. It's just still water. This water, right, is going to start accumulating like a cloudy type of substance within it. It's going to start to accumulate bacteria. It's going to start to accumulate waste and dirt and all of this stuff, and eventually it's going to be so like filthy that like the life that's in there is either going to die, or it's going to have to learn to transform into something that can survive the craziness of the toxicity. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other form of fixed water, and that can be used to explain the Scorpio energy. And by the way, Cancer is like a fog. It's gaseous water. You feel me? It's cardinal water, so it's like a gaseous water. So a gaseous water is like a fog, like a steam. You know what I'm saying? A lot of activity, emotional activity. And to give an example of what I mean by emotional activity, like a lot of Cancers are great comedians. They know how to make people laugh, or they know how to lift another person's mood up, by making them laugh, for example. When you make someone laugh, you raise their energy. Like a lot of comedians are Cancers, and I'm just using that example to highlight the energy of Cancer being gaseous and laughing gas, right? But being gaseous and very active. Meanwhile, Scorpio is more fixed, solid, liquid. And so with that being said, with Scorpio, it's like of paramount importance for you to be into like forms of therapy. Psychology is so important for Scorpios, like so important. Like I can't even stress how important it is, because Scorpio does deal with the hidden, like all the water signs deal with the subconscious and the hidden. Literally, they all deal with the subconscious and the hidden, right? So Cancer deals with the subconscious from a perspective of one's domestic life, one's upbringing, and what that has developed within their mind, their subconscious. And then Scorpio deals with certain attributes and qualities of the subconscious mind that may have maybe of rather toxicity, maybe of rather toxicity, but it doesn't always have to be toxic, but most of the time it is, because unfortunate to say, the water and earth signs are feminine signs, and simultaneously they're like the negative charge, you know what I'm saying? And they're more receptive, they're more inclined towards like worrisomeness, and just the more harsher emotions, the more heavier emotions. They're heavy, earth and water. But then fire and air, these are like the light, go-lucky, optimistic, happy, positive, especially fire, right? Very enthusiastic and very inspiring. You know what I'm saying? Fire. But anyways, yeah, you feel me? So like, whereas Cancer is like the energy of the upbringing and how they're programmed, Scorpio is more like the resonance, like the residue. I meant to say not resonance, the residue that was left behind from the programming. You know what I'm saying? Like of the programming. Like when you think of Scorpio, you can also think of like the ocean, and at the bottom, right? Because at the bottom, like the water isn't really moving that much, but also at the bottom we have these like creatures, right? These different critters that have adapted to moving in the dark, and they're like these piranhas, these scary creatures. You feel what I'm saying? And they've become self-luminescent, right? Gain this ability to see in the dark. That's a very, sorry, I heard. Anyways, that doesn't matter. There was like this beep. But anyways, as I was saying, right, self-luminescent type energy. And so when discussing the fixed water from the liquid perspective, it's important that, and you being a Cancer, and Cancer being steam, this may be an aspect that you are already in a sense figured out because of your sun in Cancer. But it's like there's a great amount of importance of learning to cleanse, learning to purify. It's kind of like doing like owning a pool, and then like every month having to maintain the water inside the pool, like clean the pool water and everything like that, but from a perspective of your emotions. And that's why like psychology and like things like therapy and things like counseling and things like astrology even would be of benefit for you, because what those things help you do is they help you unveil the things in the dark. They help you become that piranha that becomes self-luminescent and starts to see in the dark and starts to see its environment. You feel what I'm saying? So yeah, that's like the Scorpio energy. And like with the moon being here, it's very much fixated emotions, very powerful emotions. Another thing about the moon in Scorpio is power and control. Scorpio is the sign of power and control. Now, what this can mean is that you in of yourself may be an individual who has great ability to exert power and control onto others, or you may find yourself being in power struggles and power struggles, I'll just say, in relationships and dynamics where people may come and try to control you, and like you said, there is most definitely this rebellion against that, but that's also a relevant perspective with the moon and Scorpio. And Scorpio is ruled by Mars, right? The planet that deals with like our libido, our sex drive, and things like that. A lot of Scorpios are very magnetic, and they're very sexually attractive. And it's like their energy. You feel what I'm saying? It goes even beyond like their looks or anything like that. You feel what I'm saying? And like personally, like I've seen a lot of Scorpios who are very sexually attractive. You feel what I'm saying? Like from a look perspective, but simultaneously there are other Scorpios that are just, they have like the sex appeal, right? Like just sexually attractive. You feel what I'm saying? So that's also another thing with Scorpio. It has a lot of sexual energy. Like Scorpio rules the sex organs, and it rules like the act of sex in of itself. Like sex is a very private, intimate act. You feel what I'm saying? Behind the scenes, behind the doors. You feel what I'm saying? So yeah, very much Scorpio-like energy. So if you want to better understand the Scorpio energy, studying sex and having a better understanding of it would also be of benefit. It's like interesting how Scorpio rules death and birth. It rules birth from the perspective of sex, right? Because when you have sex, what you are doing in a sense is, because the sexual organs have the greatest concentration of nerves, when you have sex, you generate a bunch of nervous energy, right? Not like nervous, but like nerves, right? And the nerves are the electrical, the cells that move the electricity and the magnetism through our body. So through having sex, like you increase your electromagnetic energies, And spiritually, or in the astral plane, like you open up, you create a vortex in which souls can be pulled through, or even manifestations. That's why sex magic, for example, is a thing. So even from that perspective, you feel what I'm saying, like, of doing certain things that are very subtle and very magical, and then as a result certain things happening from that, that's very much Scorpio. Scorpio does rule over things like the occult, things like magic, things like the unknown, the unseen, things like spirit, astrology, even in spirituality too, sure, for sure. And so, yeah, I'm glad I was able to discuss that, that fixed water from the liquid perspective. And the last fixed water I want to talk about is fixed water through pressure. When water, liquid in general, is met with tremendous, like high pressure, like high amounts of pressure, and this can be physical pressure or it can be extreme heat. You know what I'm saying? What happens is that water, like the water molecules structurize and they become fixed and they become put together, but it's not like ice. You know what I'm saying? It's like it becomes like a crystal or like a mineral. You know what I'm saying? And this may sound like far-fetched, maybe you've never heard of it, but it's a reality, it's a fact, and you can do a little bit of research into it. But I would say I'm a pretty credible source. I know my ish, I know my stuff. But yeah, anyways, that's the last one I want to talk about, the pressurized fixed water. So pressure, I mean, Scorpio is pressure, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're very much pressure. Within their energy, there can be this innate intimidation that people may feel when they're around Scorpios. Because a Scorpio's energy is very much like permeating, very much penetrative. Like, when you're around a Scorpio, you can just feel the raw energy, the raw intensity, you know what I'm saying? And that comes from their feminine magnetism, the fact that they're very magnetic. A lot of people typically tend to be drawn to Scorpios. And one of the aspects of the drawing to Scorpio is indeed because they're mysterious, but it's beyond that. Their mysteriousness is their magnetism. Like, they're so attractive. And when I say attractive, I mean like a magnet. You feel what I'm saying? Attractive like a magnet. Now, the thing with Scorpio and correlation with pressure is Scorpios have, moon and Scorpios especially have this, because the moon deals with what you attract into your life. I mean, whereas the sun is an electrical current of what you express, how your willpower, your identity, how you assert yourself. Like, the moon is more what you draw in, what you attract, what you pull into yourself. And you have a deep mind, you know what I'm saying? Like, your mind goes so deep, and it's like simultaneously there are so many things that are of the unseen and of the unknown that you draw to yourself. And it's kind of like what I was talking about, the prana, and how you need to become self-luminescent, you know what I'm saying? Like, the fact of your house being very paranormal. Like, if I were you, and knowing what I now know from my video, you know what I'm saying? The fact that you're Cancer, Pisces, Deacon, research, you feel what I'm saying? Like, I would deepen my understanding and awareness upon, the spiritual realms, and learn to contact these spirits and just these spiritual forces and things like that, and become more aware of them, you feel what I'm saying? So it's very interesting. All right, peace. I'm back. My battery died earlier while I was trying to record. But anyways, what I was previously trying to communicate was Scorpio, right? And I was, if I'm not mistaken, at the part of my analogy where I was explaining pressurized water, you know what I'm saying? So, with pressurized water, I was also talking about the magnetism that comes with Scorpio and all that other good stuff. But to get to the point I was making earlier, when water is pressurized, right? Metaphorically, this can mean two things. Water is emotions. Pressuring emotions are circumstances and conditions that are intense. You know what I'm saying? Going through a life or death situation, for example, is a good example of something that's crystallizing, pressurizing. And so, because Scorpio, they have this ability to, like Cancer, but Scorpio, it's a water sign, but it's also a fixed water sign. Being fixed, it doesn't budge easily when it comes to emotions. You feel me? It has an ability to hold on to like emotions for a minute, meaning, like, a good example is like being stuck in survival mode, to give an example, but never giving up the idea of getting out of survival and thriving, being true to that, being fixated on it. I feel like is a good example of holding on to emotions stubbornly. But ultimately, with this crystallization or this pressure, like I already mentioned earlier, it just signifies that Scorpios have this ability to like demonstrate great immense of utilization of emotion to like get something done. Now, I also want to talk about this when it comes to like the strengths of Scorpio is its strength is resourcefulness, right? Scorpio is very resourceful, and one of the reasons they're resourceful is because of their key phrase, right, which is I desire, or desire in general. And the energy of desire, in a sense, is like what draws things to you, what attracts things to you. When you truly want, you get it. It's like where there's a will, there's a way. And we talked about how like the willpower is just fixated desire, right? Now, the like the strength here is resourcefulness. I already talked about that. That's like the greatest attribute and quality. But their weakest quality is trouble, right? Scorpios can be very troublesome. Trouble can either find them, they can manifest it within their own lives. You feel what I'm saying? There could be troublemakers, or they just may enjoy making trouble. And other things to look out for with this Scorpio energy is confinement. Like, Scorpio does rule like institutions and imprisonment and things like that. A little bit of Scorpio and Pisces, the 8th house and the 12th house. You know what I'm saying? Now, with the moon in Scorpio, and just with imprisoning yourself in general, before you can get physically imprisoned, it's like you have to emotionally have built a mental cage for yourself. Emotionally, you have to tune into those frequencies of being in prison, being in chains, you feel me? And with Scorpio, it kind of plays out and this kind of ties into the analogy I was giving earlier about like the water, right? About the stale water, the water that's fixed, but like it's in a bowl and it can't move anywhere. So it's important, as a Scorpio, that you learn to release. You don't hold too much onto like things like revenge and things like that, but you learn to release. You feel what I'm saying? Okay, now to get into like the decan, this is the last decan of Scorpio, right? Because your moon is, I think, 26, 28 degrees Scorpio. So that's the last 10 degrees of Scorpio, the last decan of Scorpio. This is the Corona Australis. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is Greek. Corona means crown, right? And Australis means south or southern. So, Corona Australis, the English translation is the southern crown. You know what I'm saying? And so, Scorpio deals a lot with south, right? The direction of the south. And interestingly enough, the south is like the direction of the fire element. You feel me? Like when we get into like magic and things like that, when we are practicing certain rituals, where the direction we're facing allows us to tap into certain elements. And when it comes to the south, that's like the flame. You feel me? And Scorpio has, in many instances, been considered a invisible flame because it's very passionate. It burns. You feel what I'm saying? Like very, yeah, just very passionate, very energetic. But Scorpio's energy is more emotional. Its association with the fire is because it belongs to a fiery planet, Mars. You feel me? Mars is very fiery. Now, Corona Australis, or Australis Corona, this is the deacon of attainments. You feel what I'm saying? And two, this deacon is a fluctuation between Mars and the moon, Scorpio and Cancer. So within this deacon, the primary aspect that's highlighted in a sense is one's ability to attain and grasp one's like goals and ambitions, in the sense that when it comes to, so the thing with the Mars energy as is expressed through Aries, Mars is very ambitious, very goal driven. You feel what I'm saying? And in alchemy, when you mix silver and iron together, you get like a powerful alloy, right? A powerful combination of these two metals that goes on to play as a energy that propels you towards your like goals and ambitions and desires. So when the Scorpio and the Cancer energies are put together, you can kind of think about it, for example, like when a mother sees her child is in danger, there is this instinct, right? This mama bear, or you feel what I'm saying? Instinct that kicks in. So the instinct it's both the moon, because the moon deals with instincts, but it's also Mars, because Mars deals with the muscles. You feel what I'm saying? This mama bear who sees her child in danger, she like conjures all these strength, you know what I'm saying, to do things she would not otherwise be able to do had there not been danger or violence involved. Whether that's like picking up a car or whatever, crazy stuff that happens out there. So when Mars and the energies of the moon, the moon is like domestic, motherly, family, right? Family, when family and war meet together, there is this expansive energy of courage, right? People will fight to the death for their home, for their country. Patriotism, right, is a form of the moon or Cancer. Yeah, patriotism, right? And that's why Patriots Day, 4th of July, is in Cancer. That's because the birth of America is in Cancer. So the sun was in Cancer when America was established. You feel what I'm saying? But yeah, I hope that makes sense to you. So when you combine your love for your family and your and your desire and your desire to want to take care of them, what happens is you kind of start mustering this strength, even if you thought you couldn't. All of this strength, because it's all desire. Your desire to want to provide, to want to take care of, to want to nurture your family amplifies. You know what I'm saying? It's a powerful desire, because that desire to want to nurture and take care of family is a deep-rooted biological desire that's been like put tremendous amounts of importance into, kind of like our other desires, right? Like our desire to like reproduce, our desire to preserve ourselves, to preserve humanity, etc. You feel me? And our race preservation is connected with Mars. So Mars and the moon. So Mars is like reproductive, like the desire to reproduce, right? Sexual energy. But then the moon is also reproductive, but it's the desire to nurture and take care of. So when you combine those two energies together, it's very powerful and it produces this energy of attainment. Now, the sixth house. The sixth house is the house of Virgo, right? Traditionally belonging to Virgo. With you having your sun within the sixth house, your moon within the sixth house, where the moon is concerned, there may be this energy of, where your work life and labor is concerned, there may be this energy of possibly having gotten a tremendous amount of jobs. Like you may have worked a bunch of jobs, because the moon, it expresses through fluctuation. You know what I'm saying? Like the waves that go up and down, that's the moon's energy. The stock market and the way that, the stocks go up and down, that's the moon's energy. You feel what I'm saying? The moon manifests within houses as fluctuation. So the sixth house, it deals with work, it deals with labor, it deals with employers and employees. It deals with anything that makes you money. You know what I'm saying? The second house is like the treasure of money. The sixth house makes you the money. It's whatever job, whatever work you have to involve yourself into to make money. And so the fact that you're into psychology and you provide consultations for people where you help them tap deep into their minds and bring them emotional comfort and security, that's very much attuned with that Scorpio moon energy. You feel me? The moon just deals with comfort, security, emotional like validation or emotional contentness. Now Scorpio deals with the unveiling of the dark. So you have being a psychologist or a therapist, whatever it may be, and your ability to help individuals with this work is very much aligned with the Scorpio energy. Moon, Scorpio, sixth house. Another thing, right, with Scorpio being in your sixth house, the fact that you're like a sex phone worker, right? Like that's very much in alignment with that Scorpio energy as well, for sure. But yeah, for the most part, the flexi energy that the moon manifests kind of is slowed down by like the fact that Scorpio is a fixed water sign. Like this energy right here with the moon being in the sixth house, and you can also be an indication that you get into a lot of work where mundane activities are required of you. Mundane meaning repetitive, continuously doing the same thing over and over and over. The Scorpio rules the day-to-day. It rules the home, and it rules the maintaining of the home, like washing the dishes, sweeping the floor, dusting, like the things you gotta do every day over and over. Like that's very much the moon's energy. And with your moon being in the sixth house, like this is an indication of like there is tremendous power when it comes to your ability for employment, being employed. Now, this doesn't sway you becoming self-employed, because both the sun and the moon are like in a cadent house. And so the sun, it deals with employers, people that get people to work for them, right? The sun is a leader, right? Very assertive. But then the moon more so deals with the working class. You feel what I'm saying? And with your moon being in the sixth house, you have a strong affinity towards working and jobs and things like that. Like the fact that you've had all these different jobs throughout your life makes sense, you know, like the moon, it's kind of that energy that's the closest to your heart. The energy that brings you the most comfort and security. Being resourceful and having resources, having money, making sure that you're set and you're good and you can provide for your family. These are all different things that, you know, bring you security and comfort. Now let's get into Mercury. So you have Mercury within you have Mercury in Leo, and I think it's within the third house, but let me check real quick. Okay, so let's see what it is. Okay, yeah, you have Mercury in the seventh house. My bad, Mercury 7 degrees within the third house. And also, Mercury in the third house, Mercury in the third house in the sign, Leo. So, Mercury is in the decan of rulership. Because this is the first degrees of Leo. And these are like the purest energies of, you know, the sun. This is where it's Leo energy, fully the ruler, right? And this constellation is signified by crater. It's like a crater, like a burning rock, or a furnace, essentially something that's on. I mean, first and foremost, Leo, right? Leo is the sign of the sun. The sun is a ball of fire. Leo is fixed fire. You feel what I'm saying? So first and foremost, with your Mercury being in Leo in the third house, in the third house, this is an indication that your ability to communicate your thoughts and your words is very influential when it comes to Leo, right? Leo may be a type of energy that may not need to say too much, but with everything they say, it may be precise, it may be extravagant, maybe be dramatic. It's like the thing with Leos is Mercury and Leo is they know how to express their mind, you know, and typically they don't hold back on what's on their mind. They're gonna tell people how they feel, and they have also a great enthusiasm and inspiration towards wanting to learn and wanting to understand. And with this energy, right, it's not like the Gemini where it's scattered, but with Leo being in Mercury, there's kind of this fixatedness about one's direction of mental development, meaning that if you want to get into a study or get into a conversation, typically there's already this mental outcome that you want to attain. Leo and the fire signs in general, they're very much visual. You feel me? They're very much visual signs. And so with this Mercury and Leo energy, it can even be an indication of when it comes to your mode of thinking, it's more permeated towards images and visualization and thinking more so from a visual perspective and a visual standpoint. Now, because Mercury is in the sign Leo and the sun is in Cancer within the third house, Mercury and the sun both being in the third house. Like Leo has this affinity with the sun, so the sun is influencing Mercury from the sign Cancer, and also it being in the third house as well, Sun and Mercury indicates that there's kind of this fluctuation between your modality of thinking, where it's both expressed in a Leo-like energy, but simultaneously a Cancerian-like energy. So, as I mentioned previously, Mercury is the planet of intellect, rationality, how you think, how you process information, and everything like that. One aspect of this Leo energy is there can kind of be a fixatedness of wanting things to be, or kind of getting stuck in one's head about how things should be rather than how things actually are. But, because Leo is not like Taurus, Taurus is the first fixed sign. And because Leo belongs to the second emanation, you may go around with tremendous assertion and conviction in your thoughts and your ideologies, but when it comes to modifying your thoughts according to what others may advise or what others may think, advice, you're somewhat flexible with that. Even though Leo's a fixed sign, you're somewhat flexible with engaging in a conversation with someone and kind of giving an open space for them to express themselves and giving them the benefit of the doubt that they may be able to see certain areas of you that you may be blind to, or they may know certain things that you may not know. You feel what I'm saying? And so, with Mercury being within this fire sign, the fire elements deal more with experience. You feel what I'm saying? So you may be a type of person who you're not too much in your head, but you're more so actively engaging. Like one of the ways you may learn, maybe through visual expressions, right? Visual material, or getting like physical and active with the materials that you're learning. What I'm saying, like hands-on, experiencing it, you feel me, moving, motion, and things like that. And Leo is a sign that very much is connected with art, artistic expression. It's a very creative sign. So mentally, you may be a very, very creative individual. Mercury and Venus are both artsy, very artistic. When there's a combination between Mercury and Venus, where artism is expressed, you feel me? Leo is like the sign of creativity. It deals with offsprings and children. It deals with like sex and things like that as well. Because that's one of those channels of creativity, right? So Leo, Mercury and Leo in the third house is very much this energy where when you speak, you can be very inspiring, very motivating. When you speak, people may feel like what you have to say is of importance. They listen. When you speak, you may not be a quiet type of person, you feel me? But you may be assertive in your conversation and in your dialect. You kind of speak what's on your mind, you express what's on your mind, and yeah, you feel me? Like even with your with your sun being in the third house in Cancer, although Cancers typically are considered to be shy, when the sun is in the third house, these are individuals that express their minds, that communicate their minds, you feel me? And with Mercury being a Leo in the third house, it adds more to that. free expression, your unfearness to, communicate and express your mind, your thoughts, and things like that. Now, we'll get into that a little bit. No, I'll check it right now for you. Hold on. So, if you have Mercury retrograde, then that's kind of going to, for lack of a better term, I feel like I'm using the bestest term. If Mercury is retrograde, then it's kind of going to retard, your communication ability and function. But no, Mercury is not retrograde. Mercury is direct. Mercury is good. You feel me? So, anyways, as I was saying, Mercury and Leo in the third house, very expressive individuals, very fun individuals, very animated conversationalists. When you articulate yourself, you may use all of your body to speak. You may be a very passionate speaker as well, like very inspiring, like an inspirational, motivational speaker. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think of fire, very much need to think of energy, animation, and that's channeled towards your communication skill. And with Mercury being in the third house, Mercury being in its house, this makes you a highly intellectual person, very introspective as well, conscious and aware of your thoughts, and also finding articulation of your thoughts being a bit more easier than other people. You feel what I'm saying? Because Mercury is in the sign of the house. Mercury is like the planet of communication, but when Mercury is in a house, it expresses through thought. Like these are things you ponder and these are things you think about. So you think your thoughts, you feel me? Like you may be a type of person who might think before they speak. Yeah, fixed, because it's fixed fire. Like if it was Aries or if it was Sagittarius, then it might be more sporadic, more spontaneous. And Leo's a bit spontaneous too, but it's fixed, so it's more, stable. So this may make you a type of person who may think before you speak. You may find yourself also engaging in dialects with yourself, right? You may talk to yourself, possibly, and you may be a person who finds themselves being in their thoughts a lot. Like I said earlier, a lot of the way that your thoughts operate and function is very much through a visual way. You may visualize your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking about what you're gonna do today. You may think it and see yourself doing that thing. If you're thinking about a fight that hasn't happened but that might happen, as you're thinking about it, you may be seeing it, right? That's like water and fire both deal with emotions and feelings. In order for you to see something, you have to feel it, right? When you're seeing it, you're feeling it, and there's emotions as well. Well, the thing with emotions is emotions aren't always associated with images. You can be emotional, but you're just in your feelings. And I'm trying to explain the difference between the emotions and feelings connected with fire and the emotions and feelings connected with water. So the emotions and feelings connected with water, with the water element, will lead to like dense energy, would lead to like tears, like being down and really crying. Whereas the emotions connected with fire are kind of more inspiring, inspirative, birth giving, will breathe into you. Feel me? But yeah, I would say that pretty much concludes this session as well. I definitely hope that this has been of value for you, and I 100% look forward to hearing your feedback. Namaste, peace.